In this political season, corporations are people when it comes to political contributions, and so the idea of corporate political branding is a big one. As we just saw, Netflix saw a surge in cancellations just days after one of its co-founders endorsed Kamala Harris for president. Reed Hastings is a longtime Democratic donor, so it's nothing new. He endorsed Harris in a post on X in July and reportedly donated $7 million to her campaign. 3 days later was the single worst day for Netflix cancellations this year. Join me now, someone who understands this intersection of corporate world and politics, social activism. It is USC professor and advertising expert Steve Caplan. Thank you so much for being with us. Great to have you back as always. So we think about this churn, which streamers often have. So it's nothing new to have cancellations, but this 3-day surge in cancellations, people looking at that saying, is it a new era for corporations and political messaging? What did you take away from this Netflix moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly interesting, but it's not anything that we haven't seen before in different ways. In the last several years, we've seen, on the one hand, brands try to show their support on certain causes and issues, and in certain cases, we've seen consumers push back on that. In the case of Reed Hastings, remember, this is certainly a legal contribution. The amount probably is a discussion about what should or shouldn't be regulated, but he made the contribution, and they saw a decrease in subscriptions. Whether it was directly tied to that contribution or the change in their structure in terms of the way they stream their TV, that's up for debate.
And when you talk about this new era that we've seen, at least people think back to a moment in time after the heinous murder of George Floyd, and a lot of what people called performative corporate allyship. Corporations, they're LLCs, they exist to maximize corporate value. So taking these political stances or stances on social issues can sometimes be in tension, perhaps, with that idea of maximizing profits. What have we seen now in this long view of this post-George Floyd moment? Yeah,
look, I think that this is something that we saw really emerge more during the George Floyd moment, but brands standing by corporate social responsibility is not something that's new. I've worked on a lot of projects like this, worked with some big brands who use corporate social responsibility to support their brand and their platforms. But we did see in the post-George Floyd moment a pushback on that. And in fact, my colleagues at the University of Southern California Center for Public Relations, they did a study that showed that in the past couple of years, brands that had ESG, environmental, social, and governance programs, pushed those back just a little bit from the front page of the website to the investor relations side of the website. It's an example of how brands have to pivot and change how much they talk about these things and how frontal they are about that discussion.
I let you bring up ESG because we get back to this idea again of LLCs, corporations existing to maximize their corporate value. There's a new corporate vehicle, relatively new corporate vehicle called the PBC. We call them a B Corp. It's a public benefit corporation. So in addition to maximizing value for your shareholders, you're also incorporating some sort of social good into your articles of incorporation. Hey, we're going to minimize emissions and do right by the environment, in addition to being a company that's selling Patagonia jackets or whatever it might be. How are we seeing that both as a branding opportunity for those corporations, and how popular are they as vehicles?
Yeah, I think we've seen a bit of a surge in those sort of B Corps. They don't have a huge tax benefit, but what they do is allow a company to sort of show its bona fides, its commitment to the environment or reducing emissions. And they also can attract investors through a B Corp and perhaps get public relations sort of buzz around the brand. So it is, much like anything else, it's in some ways a marketing tactic as much as it is a corporate business tactic.
It's something you understand well. You teach this stuff. You have your own company called Matter, where you consult around social ad impact work for these corporations. So a lot of this is this intersection of political social issues with corporate benefits and also corporate bottom line in mind, because at the end of the day, they're really trying to make that money. We see Bud Light, we see Disney, right? Disney takes on the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, becomes Disney versus DeSantis. Bud Light has a transgender influencer, and they see a big hit to their bottom line. What do you think corporations are taking from these moments?
Yeah, right now I think there's a lot of I wouldn't say soul searching, but they're evaluating just what the benefit of these programs are versus the cost. I would say in addition to the bottom line, in some ways you can sort of improve employee morale. There are reasons for HR that you're trying to send a message to young employees who really look for this from a brand. And I think that's something over the long term we should look at.
And sometimes it's not just the profit and losses sheet. Sometimes, as you say, it's about morale, and good morale, workers who are excited about what they're doing and then believing that product do better work. And that's definitely one of the things they're thinking about.
Yep, that's exactly right. So we'll see if they'll continue to be as frontal about these issues. I think we'll see. November will tell us a lot about that soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve Caplan. It's great to talk to you about this stuff as always. Thank you.
You know it, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Steve Caplan, USC, doing that work also at Matter, a guy who knows what he's talking about.